This video is brought to you by Hit Point Press and the Fablemaker's Animated Tarot. This beautiful animated tarot deck will add some magical flair to your 5e games. Pre-order at animatedtarot.com. And by Steamforged Games and their Epic Encounters series. With just one box, you can run an awesome cinematic adventure that your players will never forget. Use our link below the video to see all your Epic Encounter adventures. Hello and welcome to the Gallant Goblin. There may not be anything more iconic to the Pathfinder universe than the Runelords. The Runelords are 7 powerful wizards who each ruled their own realm of the Kingdom of Thassalam before the cataclysmic Earthfall event. Each one is associated with a different aspect of sin magic. Of course, the first adventure path for Pathfinder was Rise of the Runelords, but this set sports the name of another adventure path, Return of the Runelords. And many thanks to WizKids for sending this set to us to review. Now, this review is going to contain some spoilers for both of those adventure paths. You know I like to tread softly when it comes to spoilers, but this time it's pretty hard to avoid them because the characters themselves are kind of spoilery. So if you plan to play these adventures, this may be a video you want to skip. But before we jump in to see our Runelords, let me tell you about our newest Gallant Goblin supplement. We've gotten together with a team of LGBTQ+ writers, artists, and other creators in the community to make our first issue of Queer Finder, the in-world queer travel magazine for Pathfinder Infinite. We have content by Vanessa Hoskins, Satine Phoenix, Michelle Wynn Bradley, Michelle Jones, and so many other talented creators. It contains new lore, settings, NPCs, pre-generated characters, maps, magic items, festivals, and more centered around the city of Absalom, all from a queer perspective. The first issue is available now at the link below the video. We hope you love it. And now, though, let me introduce you to the Runelords. In the time before Earthfall, one of the most powerful empires on Golarion was Thassalan, which occupied lands that are now known as Varisia, the Holds of Belkzen, and the lands of the Lenorm kings. 7 mighty wizards were appointed to oversee the empire, but they were so powerful and power-hungry that they eventually assassinated the king and tried to overthrow each other to gain total control over the empire. Each Rune Lord focused on a particular type of rune magic as embodied in the 7 deadly sins, and they each possessed a mighty weapon that symbolized their role. Let's start with Alaznist, the Runewell of Wrath. Her weapon was a charred adamantine ranseur impaled with the skull of the first Runewell of Wrath. She was a demon-worshipping evocation wizard who disappeared after Earthfall. Each Runelord mini comes with their own Runewell, most of which have a translucent colored interior if you have any LEDs that you want to put underneath of them to give them a nice glow. You'll notice as we go through that each well is colored differently and has different runes inscribed around it. The Runewells can extract magic from the souls of mortals attuned to one of the sins and then store that magic within it. You can find all sorts of information about Alaznist and the Runewell of Wrath in the 6th book of the Return of the Runelords adventure path, known as Rise of New Thassalan. Next we have Belimarius, the Runewell of Envy, the Queen of Edorasil, the 10th and final Runewell of Envy who was absolutely obsessed with court intrigue, though by most accounts she did improve the quality of life for the subjects under her rule. She was a potent user of abjuration magic and was one of the first wizards to have created undead shadows. She carried a rod of cancellation and a magical mirror, but her symbolic weapon was the invidious memory-stealing halberd. When Earthfall approached, the Runelords knew what was coming and did their best to find a way to survive it. But Belimarius didn't keep up with her arcane studies and didn't have the expertise to devise an escape. So she turned to Karzoug, the Runewell of Greed, for help, and well, let's just say that she didn't get the memo that Runelords really can't be trusted. She ended up being trapped in a Groundhog Day type situation. You can learn more in the first book of the adventure path, Secrets of Roderick's Cove. Now here's Karzoug himself, the Runewell of Greed, and the first Runelord to rise during the Return of the Runelords adventure path. Karzoug began life as a slave to a mighty lich and endured quite a few deaths and resurrections as he was used as bait for summoned demons. When he was finally able to come into his own power as a Runelord, he spent a not inconsiderable amount of time and resources destroying all records of his early life. When the apocalypse approached, he used a Runewell to create a demiplane to ride out Earthfall, but he remained trapped there until a stone giant wizard accidentally triggered the Runewell, freeing him in the year 4702. But he didn't have enough power at the time to manifest as a creature of flesh and bone, so he spent a number of years gathering up minions and power to fully return to the world. His weapon of choice was a burning glaive, studded with meteoric gemstones. Here we have Krune, the last Runelord of Sloth and chief priest of Lasala, goddess of runes and fate. Lasala was an Aslant demigoddess brought over by first King Zen to Avestan, where she became a true goddess by embracing sin magic. Krune is known for his mastery of conjuration magic. His rule was largely peaceful, not because of his actions, because he was lazy, of course, but because people were afraid of his magics. He survived Earthfall, but was too lazy to create a whole new empire after his awakening, so he devised a very elaborate alarm clock that wouldn't bother his sleep until his servants had taken control of enough of a kingdom for him to rule without having to build it himself. His weapon of choice was a dragon-toothed long spear that could attack on its own without him having to do anything. Next we have Sorshen, the Runelord of Lust, and one of the only Runelords to rule their domain for the entire lifespan of Thassalon. She came along with King Zen when he was exiled from Aslant, where she started out as a Runelord of Love. Isn't that nice? She created the first Runewell and shared those secrets with the other Runelords, a decision which she, unsurprisingly, came to regret. She also rode out Earthfall in a demiplane, this time protected by a bunch of loyal vampires. She saw the shape of the world upon her awakening and chose a different path than most of the other Runelords, which I will let you discover for yourself. She was a master of enchantment magic, and her weapon of choice was a double-headed guisarme, which is sort of like a polearm. A 200-foot statue of her still remains near the coast of Varissia, about 50 miles from Magnamar, and is often the first thing sailors see when they approach Varissia. The other Runelord to rule for the entirety of Thassalon's existence was Xanderghul, the Runelord of Pride and proud wearer of actual peacock feathers. He was a master of diplomacy and, unsurprisingly, a narcissist. He worshipped the peacock spirit, which was, surprise, Xanderghul himself. He was a master illusionist, and his ego was perhaps bigger than almost anyone else who has ever lived on Golarion. Xanderghul was arguably the most powerful Runelord at the time of Earthfall, so he didn't have too much trouble devising a way to survive it. But he found that his power had waned by the time of his awakening, leaving him vulnerable, which was a state that he was not used to being in. His signature weapon was the Lucerne hammer made of sky metal. Finally, we have Zutha, the final Runelord of Gluttony. He liked to eat, for sure, though he would never eat the same meal twice. He demanded a constant influx of exotic foods and spices from faraway lands. He was skilled with both the sword and the pen, and often found a way to profit by selling to both sides of neighboring conflicts. His major export was food, so getting on Zutha's bad side was a surefire way to watch your land starve. He survived Earthfall in yet another complicated scheme, and like the other Runelords, he underestimated the extent of the damage Earthfall would cause, throwing off his planned awakening. The Whispering Tyrant himself visited Zutha's resting place in hopes of claiming some of his power, as he was also a master of necromantic magic. His favorite weapon outside his many magical rings and his Ioun stones was a life-stealing scythe made from bone. And just like all these other ancient wizards, you can learn what happened to him in the recent past by checking out the Return of the Runelord's Adventure Path. The Runelords are classic Pathfinder villains, and sometimes they do show up in the most unexpected places outside of Rise of the Runelords and Return of the Runelords. The minis are as varied as the Runelords. If you're looking for alternative uses for them, they would be great nobles or treacherous government agents. Some of them could be used as PC minis for sure, and maybe some of them would make good parents for your PCs. I think it's way too common for players to create characters who are entirely independent, without family or friends in the world. If you've got some interesting minis like these, spread them across your table during character creation and have your players select some of them to be parents, siblings, or friends. The minis themselves can be used as inspiration for their personalities and their motivations. I have always said that it can be a lot of fun to choose your mini first and create a character off of it rather than trying to do it the other way around. Pathfinder Battles Return of the Runelords is available now for an MSRP of $52.49, and don't forget to shop around as more and more prices are fluctuating between various retailers, so check around before you order. Let me know what you think of this set in the doohickey down below, and let me know if you've played Rise of the Runelords or Return of the Runelords. I would love to hear about it. And now that the Wild Beyond the Witchlight set from WizKids has been released, we can announce our winner from our unboxing from late last year. The winner gets a booster box of the minis, and I love it when they post what minis they get out of the box, so I don't know, winner, hint, hint. The winner of the Wild Beyond the Witchlight drawing is Quentin Hazen. Congratulations, Quentin. Drop us a note at thegallantgoblin@gmail.com to claim your box. Now let me tell you about something new from Hit Point Press. The Fablemaker's animated tarot deck brings the magic of tarot to your 5e games. Combine the new deck with the Fablemaker's tarot guidebook to enhance your games in many unexpected ways. The guidebook will teach you all about using tarot in your real life, but also how to use these gorgeous cards to inspire your RPG creativity, from creating NPC backstories on the fly, to enhancing your PC's motivations and history, and more. The deck comes with 78 fully animated cards with 8 frames of lenticular looping animation each, and the illustrated guidebook is 280 pages long to help you get the most out of your new deck, whether you're using it for personal readings or to spark your creativity in your RPGs, or both. Pre-order the Tarot Guidebook, deck, or box set today and get a free PDF of the Fablemaker's Tarot deck and guidebook with your order. Shape your story at animatedtarot.com. And do not miss out on the Epic Encounters series from Steamforged Games. Each box is an opportunity to tell an amazing story with your friends and gaming group. I think my personal favorite box is the Cavern of the Frost Giant. It is the perfect addition to your Storm King's Thunder or Rime of the Frost Maiden campaigns, and oh my god, look at that Frost Giant mini they included. It is one of the coolest, most detailed D&D minis I have ever seen. Plus, you can get great maps and a fantastic adventure. See all the Epic Encounter boxes at the link below the video. And thank you for watching today. Don't forget to check out QueerFinder at the link below the video, queerfinder.org. Liking the video here helps us out a lot too, and be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss anything. You can always find us on Discord, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For now, please stay safe, have fun, love each other, and I'll see you next time at the Gallant Goblin.